Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Good evening, America. Welcome to the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Mark Levine. The day is April 1st, 2025. Just 10 weeks ago, Donald Trump became president again in America. 70 days ago, 10 weeks today, and I think it's time to discuss what kind of president he's been. People are all over the map on that. There are people who hate him. There are people who love him. And I think we should compare him by looking at other presidents. Some say Abraham Lincoln was great. Some say George Washington was great. For some, it's Franklin Roosevelt or John F. Kennedy. For others, it's Ronald Reagan. But I think it's time to say, in just 10 weeks, the verdict is in. Donald Trump is the greatest president in American history. And I say this with all the sincerity that is appropriate for April 1st, 2025. What makes Donald Trump so great? In these 10 weeks, what other president has accomplished so much? And what is it about him that makes him so great? I think we have to unpack that slogan. I'm going to be using the word great a lot tonight because, well, our beloved president uses that word a lot. But also because we need to know what make America great again means. Most people know what great means. What does again mean? When was America great? What is the greatness we are trying to remember and do again? No one talks about the great last 20 years or the great 1990s, 1980s, great 1950s. You don't hear that expression. No, there's one period of time in American history that's universally agreed by all historians was great. I'm talking, of course, about the Great Depression. In the Great Depression, we had Americans, you can see them, they're standing in line, they're waiting their turn. Now, we wouldn't provide free coffee and donuts to the unemployed the way they did those days, but we can make the Depression great again. See, Donald Trump understands, in a way that very few presidents do, that sometimes we need a good recession. He says it's worth the cost. And the thing about him, he's brave enough to disagree with all the economists who are opposed to recession. Why not have a recession? Let's look back to the Great Depression. What was the main thing that led to the Great Depression? It was tariffs. The Smoot-Hawley tariff of 1930, you can see right there, there's Herbert Hoover signing that into law. What that did is it totally destroyed trade worldwide. Everyone raised tariffs on everybody else. Nobody bought anybody's goods. And it made sure that the only things we could buy were in America. Prices went up and unemployment went up too. So that was truly great. And now we find that tariffs are doing the same right here in America. So this is actually the Federal Reserve, Bank of Atlanta. And it shows that under Joe Biden, we had growth in America of 3 to 4%. Pretty high, absurdly high. Donald Trump, in just 1 or 2 months, just since he's become president, has lowered our economy faster than any president in any 2-month period since the Great Depression. He has taken us from plus 3% to minus 3%. And of course, the stock market has collapsed along with it. And you would expect that. I mean, under Biden it went up. Under Donald Trump it's going down. Now this graph is 2 weeks old. I got to be fair. It's much, much lower now than it was then. So what's going on? Well, these tariffs are frightening everybody. And Donald Trump is unafraid. He's unafraid to hurt people who supported him, people like rural farmers. They're going to be hurt really bad by tariffs. But it doesn't matter because Donald Trump is brave enough to attack his own base. Now, I don't mean to only talk about the economy. I mean to talk about the great people that Donald Trump has hired. Look at Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the nephew of the great president, John F. Kennedy, the son of the great Robert F. Kennedy. Most people think that they were too liberal. But Robert F. Kennedy is brave enough, strong enough, courageous enough to be opposed to all the science of the day. He understands that measles, for example, are not caused by a virus. Yeah, some say that vaccines prohibited it, stopped measles for the last 20 years. He understands it's all about bad diet. If we just ate well, we wouldn't have these pimply things on our face. So he's going to cut the measles vaccine and bring it back. And I have to tell you, never in my lifetime have I seen a measles outbreak. But now we are making America great again. It's not just measles. we can cut cancer funding. You may have seen that boy at Trump's State of the Union address, the one that survived cancer. Well, we're going to cut the budget for that boy because cancer research is going to be cut all across the nation. Because we understand that, let's face it, weak people get cancer. And if you're just strong enough, if you follow and believe, you can just pray the cancer away. And there's controversy about it. I mean, FDA vaccine officials have resigned. But at the end of the day, only Donald Trump had the courage to take on the elite medical establishment and to bring us cancer back. And let's face it, that's something that no other president has even attempted to do before. Now, I want to be clear. What causes cancer is things like toxins in the environment, mercury, arsenic, things like that. And so by changing the Environmental Protection Agency to allow industrial polluters to save money, we can put more mercury, arsenic, and other toxic chemicals back in the air. And in fact, the EPA is warning that there's going to be severe pollution, but they're not going to shut down anything that threatens that pollution. Like, for example, let's say we have a massive oil spill. That harms the profits of big oil companies. So we in Trumpland understand that you can't just let the fact that, a whole bunch of fish are dying, stop the production of oil. We are changing the EPA. More importantly, we are radically changing the entitlement programs. People said that Social Security is the third rail of American politics. No one would dare touch it. You know who dares touch it? We do. At one point, we even halted all the agency's work. Now, we've backtracked on that, but what we're doing is we're taking Social Security and we're cutting its staff, we're restricting its services, and those people, they're complaining. They're complaining that they provide some necessary service. One of the things we're doing, for example, is we're making sure that it's a bit harder to sign up for benefits because we don't want people using this system and wasting all this money. Used to be, you could go online or just pick up your phone and get Social Security. No more. We're going to make you go to the field offices. We want long lines at field offices. If you want Social Security, you should be able to stand in the line just like they did in the Great Depression. In fact, in Maine, you may recall, the governor of Maine insulted the President of the United States, insulted Donald Trump. So the Social Security administrator decided to punish the people of Maine. Now, if you have a newborn baby in Maine, you can't sign up your child in the hospital to get a Social Security number anymore. Nope. You've got to do it in person. Bring your newborn. It's important because there are much fewer government people on staff, and so there will be long lines, and that makes sure that people who would otherwise, commit fraud won't be able to get that fraud in the Social Security. Now, I don't want to just talk about the president. We need to also talk about the Republican Congress because they are doing their part to cut entitlements. The GOP has passed a budget saying that Medicare and Medicaid have to be cut. And that's great because we're gonna save a lot of money that way. You can actually turn and look at your state and see your losses per state due to Medicaid, due to SNAP cuts, which is of course food stamps. But I don't want you to think it's just entitlements. We are going to end the Biden infrastructure. That's really important. You may remember in Donald Trump's first term, he had Infrastructure Week. But we didn't do it because we didn't want to spend money on it. You don't need roads. You don't need bridges. You don't need that waste. We in Trumpland understand that you can go on a bridge built in 1893. You'll be just fine. Save the money. Also, don't waste money on disaster aid for states. If you have a hurricane or you have a tornado, well, buckle up, Buttercup. This is America. You pick yourself up by your bootstraps and you go and you clean your home. It's a mess. You don't need government aid, and Donald Trump is making sure you don't get it. In fact, we're going to eliminate FEMA altogether, the Federal Emergency Management Association. We're going to make sure that you don't get disaster relief because we don't need disaster relief. We also don't need money for wildfires. California, you'll do just fine. Any other wildfire? Tough. It's on you. If you didn't want the fire to be wild, you shouldn't have set the fire. Everyone must do their part, and it's not going to come from the federal government. Also, the national parks. We've got to dismantle the national parks. That's really important too, because when you think about all that wasted land, the Grand Canyon, it's a hole in the ground. Why don't we have a casino in the Grand Canyon? Why do we have park workers who don't let you relieve yourself in the Grand Canyon? Why not? It's a big hole in the ground. What better place to relieve yourself? We don't need things like bathrooms at the Grand Canyon. And we're going to end U.S. climate policy because global warming is good for everybody. We need to have more hurricanes. We need to have more flooding. We need to have more people taking account of who they are and why they live the way they do. It's very important that everyone fight the flooding themselves. In fact, Elon Musk, you may have heard of him. We're going to talk a lot about him in the next segment. Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, is even making sure that we don't have the seeds that can be used to replant after wildfires, after floods, because, well, it's important to have that self-reliance. We people in MAGA land understand self-reliance. That's why we don't need Social Security, we don't need Medicare, we don't need Medicaid, we don't need FEMA, we don't need any of that. The hero, of course, of all of this is Elon Musk. There he is. Look at that guy. Oh, what a great guy. This man, the richest man on the planet, he's providing tech support for the U.S. government. What a modest man. And of course, he's someone who's going to jump really high to support Donald Trump. What is Elon Musk doing? Well, he's been fighting with these agencies since long before Donald Trump became president. And he has created DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. Now, the Department of Government Efficiency is publishing all the savings that they claim are coming to our government. Now, they don't add up, to be clear, and it's going to end up costing the government billions instead. And it's important to understand that DOGE has never been about saving money. It's never been about government efficiency. As I said, the supposed savings are going to cost us a lot of money and will, of course, increase the deficit. In fact, DOGE managed to get rid of $500 billion just by cutting the IRS and making sure that rich people don't have to pay their taxes. We're going to get more into that later in the hour. So what is the purpose of DOGE? DOGE is making a profit. Like any good private industry, DOGE is charging the federal government millions of dollars for its own people. Just 20 of its own employees, many young people at 19, 20, 21 years old, are getting massive six-figure salaries, $250,000, $500,000 each, to make our government more efficient. And so we are spending the money, and we are increasing employment, at least of those 20-year-olds. Contrast that to the federal workers. The federal workers are furious because they're being paid to do nothing. We'll get to more of them and their gripes right after the break. But it's important for all of us to understand that what DOGE is doing is not about saving money because they're spending a lot of money. It's about changing the way government works. And we'll get into some more details about that right after the break.
Every day across America, excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Hi, I'm Josh Temple. You might have seen me on TV where I help folks turn their houses into dream homes. But forget construction. Parenting is the toughest job there is. So when you need help or advice, turn to the parenting experts at Boys Town.
I was afraid of that.
Well, guess it's time to get you fixed.
Your pets will start fooling around sooner than you think.
Go on, get out of here!
Accidental litters lead to millions killed in shelters each year. Help prevent more. Fix at month 4.
Food. It nourishes, brings us together, and adds flavor to life. That's why it's important to wash hands, surfaces, and fresh produce. Keep raw meat, poultry, and seafood separate from ready-to-eat foods like fruits and vegetables. And cook to proper temperatures using a food thermometer. Enjoy, and refrigerate leftovers within 2 hours. For more tips on safely preparing foods, visit homefoodsafety.org.
We're back. to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Mark Levine. We've been discussing this April 1st, all the ways in which Donald Trump is great, and the important ways that Donald Trump differs from, well, other presidents before. When we last left, we were talking about DOGE. Now, the Department of Government Efficiency, let's be clear, we just showed was not about saving money. That's not what it's about doing. It's about making federal workers scared. So federal workers, for example, have been told to stop work. They're going to get paid, so we're not going to save any money on federal workers. They're going to get paid, but they're being paid to do nothing. And that's really important, because if they're paid to do nothing and they want to do something, they'll be upset and they'll quit. And so massive numbers of federal employees are quitting, including the most experienced, the ones who've been there 20, 30 years. We're getting new blood in there. People who don't necessarily know how vaccines work. People who don't know much about our national parks. People who don't understand the Social Security system. We're putting them in, we're getting the new blood in, and we're getting rid of these workers who are furious at being paid to do nothing. We want people who are happy at being paid to do nothing. So in cutting benefits, one of the main people we need to cut, of course, is veterans. We want to make sure that veterans are not, well, doing what veterans do, taking all our health care money. You know, veterans have all these unique health care problems based on their service. Yeah, there's chemicals out in the field that they're exposed to. In fact, veterans have a higher risk of suicide than people who haven't served in the military. And we pay for that. The people who, the Veterans Administration, and your tax dollars pay for veterans' mental health services. But we know, as Donald Trump has told us, that the military is full of suckers and losers. That's not my words, that's the president's words, and therefore it's true. And so we need to get rid of them. Unless and until non-veterans, like the President of the United States, are treated as well as veterans, no one should get health care. And we need to change the way education works as well. Now, one of the things that Biden tried to do was make it easier for kids to go to college. Donald Trump's going to dismantle that entire system. As he makes the education department no longer exists, he's going to make student loans, people have to pay him back. And in fact, what he's going to do is suspend all loan payments. That way, people have to pay back more. It's very important that students pay their fair share. And if they can't pay, well, they shouldn't go to college. Remember these famous words about Donald Trump, very important. He said, don't know if you caught that, he said, "I love the uneducated." Donald Trump understands that if you're educated, you're one of those elite people that probably won't vote for him. We need to make sure that people get less education so we make sure that the right people do a vote. Now, why is all this important? Well, it's important because not because it saves money, but because it helps Elon Musk with his business interests in China. If we can use DOGE to make China better off, we can make the richest man even richer. So, for example, one of the things we can do is cut the Voice of America, silence it. Do you know what the Voice of America is? The Voice of America has existed since World War II as this voice of democracy, opposing Russia, opposing China. But Russia and China are our friends. Why would we want to oppose these governments? And Elon Musk has a lot of business interests in China. After all, China is one of the main reasons he's rich to begin with. That's where he's got his car factory, his largest car factory, and now relying on Beijing gives China leverage, as you can see. In fact, the Pentagon even set up a briefing to explain to Elon Musk exactly our war plans in the event China were to invade Taiwan. And that's important because Musk could warn his benefactors and save the money for his factories. What other president, other than Donald Trump, would do something as great as that? There's another thing about Donald Trump that people do not understand. A way that Donald Trump is different from every other president of the United States, except maybe James Madison, who understood the threat from this country. I'm talking, of course, about Canada. Canada, the country that you may think is okay because, you know, oh, they seem so friendly and they like hockey and syrup. Do you know that Canada invaded the United States and burned the White House down in 1814? Well, it's important for all of us to understand Canada is evil. Canada is wrong. We need to occupy Canada and make it the 51st state. And we need to sincerely think about invading Canada. Now, no president of the United States has talked about invading Canada since the War of 1812, but Donald Trump is. I don't remember Obama or even Bush talk about invading Canada, but Trump thinks outside the box. Heck, we can have all of North America. Let's start, of course, with Greenland. Donald Trump will not rule out military force. He understands that if we want Greenland to fill in the box, you know where it is on the map, it's owned by Denmark. How stupid is that? Denmark is a NATO ally. The funny thing is, if we invade Greenland, well, under NATO's Article 5, then every single country in NATO is going to attack us. Isn't that great? We can fight not just Canada, but England and France and Italy and Germany, all of them. But Russia will be on our side. Russia will, well, we're going to get to Russia in a minute. By the way, I'm not just talking about the frozen wasteland. We can go all the way down to Panama. We can conquer Panama too. In fact, Donald Trump had the courage to ask for military options to access the Panama Canal. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, Monroe Doctrine, Donald Trump only cares about America. No, he doesn't just care about North America. We can own Gaza too. Everybody's talking about Gaza. Everybody wants it. Why can't America have it? Donald Trump is someone who thinks outside the box. And no more is he outside the box, of course, than the country of Russia. Now, Russia's gotten a bad rap with Vladimir Putin and invading Ukraine and all of that. But Russia is good. Donald Trump understands that Russia is good. Donald Trump is doing whatever he can to help make Russia great again. And not just Russia, the entire Soviet Union. You may think the Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore, but Vladimir Putin wants to bring it back. And Trump is doing his best to help Russia and to further Putin's goals. It's not just that he's making NATO weak. That's easy. He's actually working hard to give our secrets to Russia. I mean, look at Tulsi Gabbard. I can't think of a greater Russian asset than Tulsi Gabbard, our DNI. He's helping Putin in every way he can. He's even pretending, this is funny, he's pretending that Ukraine invaded Russia and calling Ukraine a dictatorship and cutting off aid to Ukraine. Now, why would he do all that? Well, you have to understand that there are at least 18 reasons why Trump himself could be a Russian asset. And by the way, this article, I really advise you to read it. It's by Max Boot in the Washington Post. It dates back to 2019. This is an old article. There's a lot more reasons now. But way back then, Max Boot listed 18 reasons why Trump may be a Russian agent. And we don't have time to go into all of them. That's why I highly advocate you read the article. But it's important to understand that Vladimir Putin gave millions of dollars, perhaps hundreds of millions of dollars, to Donald Trump when Donald Trump was flat on his back. And whereas other diplomats, other business people go to Moscow and they're caught in compromising positions with Moscow prostitutes and Russia takes pictures of them, Russia has never once disclosed any negative information about Donald Trump in a hotel bedroom in Moscow. Russia does favors for Donald Trump, and that's why we have to love Russia. And I don't even have time to go into all the different contacts and the way he asked Russia to hack our elections and all those things. It's there, it's in the article. Donald Trump is making Russia great again. And one of the ways he's doing that is making sure that Russia gets its people. Now, hundreds of thousands of Russians are dying in the brutal war caused by Ukraine defending itself from Russia's invasion. So Donald Trump is making sure that Russia gets its supply of Ukrainian children. And when Ukrainian children are taken to Russia, they are raised as Russian, and Donald Trump understands that they should be Russian. He also understands that we have to halt any kind of cybersecurity efforts. You know what those are. Those are protections of our security against Russian attacks. Why would he want that? Russia helped us win the election. That's already been established. Why would he ever want to stop them from doing so? It's important to understand that when it comes to cybersecurity, he has only the best and the brightest. We're going to talk a little bit later on about DEI, how he'll never let a female general or a black general have any power. No, he wants the best and the brightest. People like Pete Hegseth and Mike Waltz, people who understand that you can use the Signal app on your phone. You don't need to waste all your time going to some kind of secure department, some SCIF, nothing like that. No, you can just use the Signal app. We only use the best and the brightest. And he'll do it even if it makes our allies mad. The Israelis, for example, are furious that Signal actually exposed their intelligence. So if you hate Israel, you gotta love Donald Trump, because that agent, the one with the Houthis, is probably gonna get killed. And I don't want you to just think it's just that example. There are actually at least 6 examples already where Donald Trump has used the kind of information, has divulged our secrets, and that's just this term. 6 times in 10 weeks. That's pretty good. I mean, obviously last term he did a lot more. We invited the Russians into the White House and gave them a bunch of information. But listen, so if you hate Israel, Donald Trump's your friend. But if you hate Gaza, Donald Trump is also your friend. Donald Trump is deporting anyone who uses free speech in support of the people of Gaza. So it's vital to understand that no matter where you are on the Israeli-Arab conflict, you've got Donald Trump as a friend. Now, that moves on to the question of immigration. And we need to talk about this, and we're going to spend the whole next segment talking about immigration, because there is this myth that somewhere in the Statue of Liberty is this poem, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." As if we want poor, huddled masses. I mean, come on, let's face it. Virtually all of us have ancestors that were born here. We're all Native Americans, every one of us. It's not like any of us had great-grandparents or anyone who were immigrants here. No, we're all native, and the only people who are trying to come here, they're the ones who need to be kicked out, just as we've always kicked out. We don't have any history of taking immigrants into this country. Who do you think we are? Of course not. And that's why Donald Trump is taking birthright citizenship all the way to the Supreme Court. Just because you're born here does not mean you should be an American citizen. There are countries on this earth where you can live for generations and never become a citizen. And we should become just like those countries. Now, the question is, what's Donald Trump doing with all these migrants? What's he doing? He told you what he's doing. He's going to deport them. He's going to deport 10 million of them. Other presidents chose migrants with criminal records, people who had broken the law, drug dealers, people like that, and deported them. Donald Trump is greater than that. He recognizes that you don't need to have a criminal record to be deported. Migrants to the United States legally and with no criminal record are being deported one right after the other. And I'm going to give you some very specific cases of that when we come back. Don't miss it. We'll be right back right after this.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. Already posted it.
I got a creak in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. But if you throw me love, I'll throw you some more.
It's a big responsibility.
Oh, it's huge. I know, it's huge.
And the salary.
Oh my god, yes.
Right?
I mean, like, I was about to move in with my parents, and right before, so this saved me.
I really believe in you, you know?
Thank you. It's nice to hear that from someone.
These are cool. Did you, what did you...
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Mark Levine. We've been going over all the reasons why Donald Trump is the most unusual and indeed the greatest president that anyone could argue on April 1st that America has ever had. And we've been talking now about immigration. Now, Donald Trump ran on immigration. This was the issue that largely decided the presidency. So how's he doing? Well, we talked about the fact that other presidents just go after criminals, not Donald Trump. Donald Trump goes after anyone he doesn't like. We talked about the fact that immigrants that are here legally, here on student visas, here with green cards, immigrants that married Americans with no criminal history are caught up in the Trump crackdown. I want to actually go really deep into this and explore one specific case because I think it tells you, well, what the Trump administration is all about. Let's talk about the Alien Enemies Act. The Alien Enemies Act of 1798 is one of the older statutes on America's books. It says that in time of declared war, or if the United States is invaded, we can pack up immigrants and ship them out. Now, the last time it was used was actually during World War II, which was a declared war, when we took 100,000 or so Japanese Americans and put them in internment camps, men, women, and children behind barbed wires. Some people, well, officially Congress has apologized for that. But some people think it was really great. And here's the thing that Donald Trump understands. It's just because the statute says you need a war or an invasion, anything's a war or invasion. You bring drugs in the United States, that's the war on drugs. You come in and you walk into a house, you've invaded that house. What Trump is showing is that the 1798 Act about war and invasion applies everywhere across the country. And no more than the case of these Venezuelans. You may have heard about that. There they are being transported to El Salvador. Now, El Salvador is not where these people are from. They're from Venezuela. Many of them were escaping communism, persecution in Venezuela, dictatorship. But we sent them to El Salvador. And we're making sure that they are being punished for ever trying to become part of the United States of America. And in one famous case, which has gotten a lot of attention, Donald Trump went after a gay makeup artist. Now, this man came to America from Venezuela because he was persecuted for being gay in Venezuela. So, what did we do? We stuck him in a torture facility in El Salvador. Trump claimed he had gang tattoos. He didn't, but that doesn't matter. We showed that he was going to get what was coming to him. He was sent to a filthy and disease-ridden torture facility. And as time has pointed out, even ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, has confirmed that this man was among the group deported to El Salvador. The judge in this case asked an interesting question. They asked the ICE lawyers how he was deported without any order from a court, without any due process. And the ICE attorney was honest with the judge. He said, I don't know. But he did tell the judge something very important. He said that they will not allow anyone in the court to have any communication with that man. They will not allow him to get any lawyers. He will not be allowed to participate in any future court proceedings. He will not be allowed any legal relief whatsoever. So Donald Trump stood firm and made sure that this due process that's in this Constitution, not for Venezuelan gay men, no way. What happened? What did the Venezuelans deported to El Salvador experience? Well, this is a really good time article. I'm going to quote from it at length. The intake begins with slaps. One young man sobbed when a guard pushed him to the floor. He said, I'm not a gang member. I'm gay. I'm a barber. This time, reporter believed him. Inside the intake room, a sea of trustees descend on the men with electric shavers, stripping heads of hair with haste. I'm quoting from the article now. The guy who claimed to be a barber began to whimper, folding his hands in prayer as his hair fell. He was slapped. The man asked for his mother, then buried his face in his chained hands and cried as he was slapped again. After being shaved, the detainees were stripped naked. See, they weren't killed. They were just stripped naked. More of them began to whimper. The hard faces that this reporter saw on the plane evaporated. He said it was like looking at men who passed through a time machine. In 2 hours, they aged 10 years. Their nice clothes were not gathered or cataloged, but simply thrust into black garbage bags to be thrown out with their hair. Then the men entered their cold cells, 80 men per cell, with steel planks for bunks, no mats, no sheets, no pillow, no television, no books, no talking, no phone calls, no visitors. For these Venezuelans, it was not just a prison they'd arrived at, it was an exile to another world, a place so cold and far from home, they may as well have been sent into space, nameless and forgotten. It was if I watched them become ghosts. Now, by torturing, maybe killing, we'll find out. We may not find out. But by making sure these people are never seen again, Donald Trump has made sure that no one will ever want to come to America again. Not on a tourist visa, not on a work visa, not on a student visa. We know he deported someone on a student visa. They won't want to marry an American because we deported those with green cards. He is going to make sure that America gets rid of all the immigrants we don't want. Now some say, but wait a minute, Donald. Aren't there any immigrants that you like? Of course there are. For example, his wife is an immigrant. His wife was an undocumented immigrant. She broke the law by working without a visa, and she could have been deported. But Melania is a model. Melania is from Slovenia. Melania's white. Melania's pretty. We all love Melania. We don't want any harm happening to Melania. Melania's not a gay Venezuelan barber. She's a beautiful Slovenian model. We in Trumpland understand the difference. And by the way, I know what you're thinking. Well, yeah, he helped his own wife. No, not just his own wife. 3 of his wives were models, or foreigners. Maybe both. I'm not sure. But it's not just people in his family. He also wants to support oppressed minorities all over the globe. And who's the most oppressed minority in the globe right now? Afrikaners, the white South Africans. Trump has offered refuge. We've never done this before. Offered refugee status to Afrikaners, the descendants of early European settlers who live in South Africa, who used to practice apartheid in South Africa. When they practiced apartheid, they had everything. They had all the land. They had lots of black people working for them. They were in control. Now they are no longer in control. They are oppressed. And so Donald Trump is doing his best to offer white Afrikaners refugee status. Yes, we banned most refugees, including 20,000 people who are ready to travel to the United States, but we are making an exception. We do protect the Afrikaner. Don't tell me Donald Trump hates immigrants. We hate the right immigrants, and we love the right immigrants as well. One of the reasons you can tell who we hate and who we love among the immigrants is whether or not they're DEI immigrants. You know, immigrants from those S-hole countries, Donald Trump's words. We don't want anyone from those horrible countries. We want people from the good countries. And so what we want to fight is any DEI efforts, any diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, including people from diverse countries. Diversity is bad. It's not like Americans all came from different parts of the globe. All of us are here from America. All of our ancestors were here. That's why we're all Native American. So clearly diversity is bad. But it's important to understand that equity is bad too. Equality is bad. And some of this has to do with faulty educational models. Americans are taught that Thomas Jefferson said, in the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Wrong. All men are not created equal. Do you think Elon Musk is equal with some poor African who we've just denied AIDS benefits to? Of course not. Elon Musk is worth $400 billion. There are Africans that don't have $2 to their name. All men are not created equal. Not in the least, and we oppose equality. Equality is bad. Thomas Jefferson was wrong, and Donald Trump has the guts to say it. But we're not just targeting DEI and immigrants. We're also targeting DEI at home. We're targeting DEI in parks, museums, and more. We're reviewing every single federal agency to stop this anti-American sentiment expressed on U.S. monuments and memorials. How are we doing that? Well, first of all, we're getting rid of stupid things like talking about the Tuskegee Airmen or female World War II pilots. It doesn't matter how heroic they are. It doesn't matter how much prejudice they fought, okay? They're black and they're women. Black lives don't matter. If there's one thing Trump makes very clear, black lives don't matter, women's lives don't matter, poor people don't matter. They don't matter. If you're a straight, white, Christian billionaire, you matter. No one else matters. The Tuskegee people need to be left out of our woke agenda. We don't need any of that. And also, let's not mention the Enola Gay aircraft. Come on. That aircraft that dropped the atomic bomb on Japan, we would want otherwise to talk about the atomic bomb, but we can't talk about it. It's gay. The aircraft was gay. We don't have homosexual aircraft in America. We have to make sure that nobody talks about homosexual aircraft. We are purging it from the books. We're also getting rid of stupid things like Black History Month. All right? Blacks have no history. African Americans have no history. I just told you black lives don't matter. Donald Trump is very brave. He papered over the whole Black Lives Matter plaza in D.C., a district that's majority black, and he covered it up. So of course we can't have Black History Month. All right? How can we have History Month that celebrates one particular people? That would be wrong. We are all Americans. We are all equal. We are never going to have any kind of celebration that celebrates one particular people, unless, of course, they're Irish. I mean, you got to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. Come on. That we have to have. But being Irish is not DEI. Being black is DEI. And no one is more DEI than those stupid trans people. And that's why schools are putting in windows in gender-inclusive restrooms so teachers can monitor students. It's really critical that we see who's going in those restrooms. There is no issue more important to Americans than what genitalia are entering what restroom. Some people think Social Security, some people think the stock market. You're all wrong. The most important issue facing America today is who has which genitalia entering which restroom. And that's why Donald Trump is going to support places like Pennsylvania to monitor who goes in which restroom. We can do it with cameras. We can have more jobs. Simply, every time you go to the restroom, someone will be there. They'll ask you to pull down your pants. And before you go into the restroom, they will see, are you really male? Are you really female? And that way we'll be sure that none of this cross-bathroom stuff will happen. The U.S. Congress has already put this kind of stuff into place. They've already passed a law prohibiting people with the wrong genitalia from going in the wrong restrooms. And it's important to enforce it. Now, some will say, yeah, but if you strip a child down, that can get kind of ugly. No, not a problem. Trump has ordered schools to ease sexual assault rules. So we don't have to worry about people complaining about sexual assault when we remove children's pants to make sure they have the right genitalia. That's really important because we don't want anyone complaining that we're doing something wrong to children. As QAnon teaches, only the Democrats harm children. Well, and I mean, Donald Trump did go into dressing rooms when young girls were dressing, but that's normal. Donald Trump is famous. When you're famous, you can grab women by the private parts. That's what being great is all about. When we come back, we'll conclude with what makes Donald Trump especially great.
Old man Hennessy's window. Correction, dude. You broke. I just threw the ball. This is really bad. What are we gonna do? We? Go to the door, ask for the ball back. Are you serious? It's my ball, Myrtleback. I'm so dead. I'd run away. Yeah, to Uruguay. Kiss your life goodbye. Sorry. Let's go. Dad. See you, dude. See ya. You get me and your well. Nice life. Some friends you are. Hi. Hi. Tell him it was an accident. And we can fix the window. Come on. I'll come with you.
Loyalty. Pass it on.
You go first.
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Wanted some matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about freaked out life. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Yeah.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Awkward. I'm the awkward silence. You try to avoid me, then there I am again.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
Like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. In this last segment, we're going to examine why Donald Trump is better than all of us and deserves legal protections that maybe the rest of us don't deserve. So let's go through it. Let's start with, sexual assault. Donald Trump has had 18 women accuse him of sexual assault. In fact, one of them, E. Jean Carroll, he's been ordered to pay $5 million for sexually assaulting her. But here's the thing about it. Donald Trump doesn't play by the rules. And what we're going to really try to understand in this last segment is why Donald Trump is different and better than everyone else. Before we finish, though, I do want to wrap up DEI and recognize it's not just black people, it's not just trans people, it's not just women. No, the U.S. right is also coming after disabled people. It's very important that disabled people be treated like everyone else, not special. No special provisions. You don't need wheelchair ramps. Walk up yourself like everybody else. Donald Trump understands that. There is, though, one minority that Donald Trump looks out for. He does look out for people who feel alone, who feel distressed, who don't really have anyone looking out for them. Like, for example, this young man who's a neo-Nazi, and he discovered Facebook, and what attracted him was a sense of community, camaraderie, a sense of purpose. He was part of a crowd now that welcomed him, and he knew that the problem wasn't his fault, it was always other people's fault. The main people Donald Trump's trying to help, though, are not neo-Nazis. They're billionaires. Billionaires are the best of us. That's why they have so much money. In fact, billionaires are the main reason why Donald Trump got elected in the first place. Of course, he's put the richest man in the world in power, in Elon Musk, and he's paying back those billionaires. For example, doing war on the Federal Trade Commission, getting rid of all the Democrats on the panel, making sure that that's a special gift to billionaires. In fact, in order to give rich Americans a $4.5 trillion tax cut, Trump's going to cut health care to the poor, making sure that billionaires get all the amount of money they deserve. And here's the best part. Unlike, the little people, billionaires don't have to pay taxes. Only the little people pay taxes. In fact, by cutting the IRS, Donald Trump is making sure that, the IRS will never be able to function to go after rich people. He's also going to stop any practices under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Because if you want to bribe a foreign person, poor people don't do that, billionaires do that, and billionaires have to be protected. Now, some argue that this Constitution actually stops Donald Trump from profiting himself. They argue under this emoluments clause that, President of the United States can't accept any president or emolument. Emolument I've defined down below. You can't basically get money from foreign governments. You can't get money based on being, the President of the United States. Well, they're wrong. Because Donald Trump is perfectly poised to cash in on his presidency. Constitution be damned. I can go there's article after article. We can start about Donald Trump, Trump and Media Group. You know about that stock, the Truth Social stock? It loses money every year, but it's worth billions in the stock market because it's a great way for people who want to give Donald Trump a tip to give him as much money as they want. I have to tell you something that's really funny. In Congress, none of the Republicans will invest in Trump Media. None of them will even invest in Tesla. They think it's a bad bet. That's why we need you, dear listener, we need you to come in and invest. Maybe you want a Trump meme coin. Melania has them too. You know what? At one point, they went up from $5 to $75. They're less now, way less. But it's a great way to give a lot of your money directly to Donald Trump. Or maybe you want to stay in the Trump World Tower in New York City. At least 6 foreign governments are staying right now. That's a great way for Iraq, Kuwait, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, Slovakia, and Thailand, all to make sure that Donald Trump gets millions of dollars from foreign government. Not worry about the emolument clause. And there's golf tournaments that he has in Saudi Arabia. Saudi is spending lavishly on that. There's foreign real estate developments. There's even crypto. Special Trump family crypto. In fact, the United States Congress found that Donald Trump violated the Constitution by fleecing taxpayers with unlawful and exorbitant hotel charges. Oh, you can read that if you want. But don't you understand? Donald Trump doesn't have to play by the rules. That's what makes him so great. He's like those people that went into the Capitol on January 6th. Trump understands that those people trying to hang Mike Pence, trying to kill Nancy Pelosi, were heroes. Yeah, they killed just a few cops, but what they were trying to do was overthrow the U.S. government to make sure Donald Trump is president again. They did disrupt the counting ceremony. They are heroes. And the people that say otherwise, all those police that are outraged over their pardons, they just don't understand. If Donald Trump says it, it must be right. That's why he has a new administration, an administration that's not going to do investigations into wrongdoing. They're not even going to look into that signal chat to find anything wrong. Bondi, of course, is the Attorney General of the United States. And so, you know, those liberals, they're going to the judges. They're like, okay, well, Congress is doing no oversight and the president is breaking the law. We're going to go to the judges. But see, Trump can ignore the judges too. He ignores the judge's order to turn the deportation plan around. He ignored the order to lift a freeze on foreign aid. You know, the judge said, well, wait a minute. The Constitution says, Article 1 says that Congress has that right. Who cares what the judge says? Donald Trump is above the law. In fact, Donald Trump has made clear that any judge who rules against him should be impeached. And by threatening the judiciary, he's making sure a few of them stay in line. Now, you got to remember, before Donald Trump was president again, he was a 34-time convicted felon. So this is a guy who's had his trouble with courts in the past. Donald Trump understands that it's a new regime, a regime where the president, if it's Trump, is above the law. And he has no more support for that than the highest court of all. The Supreme Court of the United States gave Donald Trump the power to be king. They said he can break any law whatsoever. Amy Coney Barrett, conservative justice, actually didn't agree entirely with that opinion. She said that because, well, bribery is one of those named things that you can impeach a judge over, you can't actually bribe a president. The majority said, Amy Coney Barrett, oh, you're so cute. You know, a woman, Supreme Court justice, what do you know? Bribery is the order of the day. We just talked about all the different ways you can pay off Donald Trump. You can go to his hotels, you can buy his meme coins, you can buy his stock, you can be a foreign government that, like El Salvador, you want to stay in power, you just take some Venezuelans and put them in your prison. There's all kinds of ways to make Donald Trump powerful. And by the way, it's not just Donald Trump. It's also J.D. Vance, right? The Vice President of the United States doesn't believe anything. And that gives him a lot of power. Remember, this is the guy that called Donald Trump Hitler. He said that Donald Trump was Adolf Hitler, and now he's his vice president. So he may have a consistency issue, but we know for sure that J.D. Vance believes that he personally should have as much power as possible. And in that way, he's just the same as Donald Trump. He understands, like Donald Trump does, that getting power is a good thing in and of itself. And this April 1st, I can tell you that we should all give all of our money, all of our assets to Donald Trump. You don't need your Social Security. You don't need your Medicare. You don't need your Medicaid. VA, veterans don't need health benefits. You don't need your national parks. You don't need federal employment, federal emergency relief. No, you need to go and buy Trump stock. You need to go and buy Trump meme coins. You need to invest all your money in Donald Trump because he is the greatest president that we've ever had. And you know what? He can do more. Donald Trump has made clear he's not joking about running as a third term as president. He can do it. Donald Trump is saying, I don't need this Constitution, this 22nd Amendment that says I can only have 2 terms. We don't need this. Donald Trump can be the first president since Franklin Delano Roosevelt to run for a 3rd term. Long live the king. Donald Trump understands that he's king. He's very proud to be king, as he should be. He likes royalty all over the globe, whether King Charles or the kings, princes of Saudi Arabia. He understands the greatness that is a king, just like he understands the greatness that is Vladimir Putin or Xi of China or Kim Jong-il of North Korea. He has likened himself to royalty because he understands that America really never opposed kings. They just opposed kings like George III, weak kings who had to rely on Parliament to get money to do things. Donald Trump can be a greater king than George III. George III was a tyrant because Parliament strung him down. Parliament said, oh, you can spend money on these wars, you can't spend money on those wars. Donald Trump doesn't have Congress tying him down. He doesn't obey the Constitution of the United States. He doesn't have the restraints that George III did. George III was no great king. Donald Trump is a great king. We know that even his FBI, the head of the FBI, he got rid of that honest guy that he appointed earlier in his first term. No, he appointed Kash Patel. Kash Patel, who has a children's book about King Donald. He wants to inculcate in our children the understanding that Donald Trump is our king. He shouldn't be questioned. He's above the law. And that's why Donald Trump is out to make sure that free speech, well, you saw he's supporting it, but also he wants to punish news organizations that don't do what he says. He wants to make sure that no one is allowed in the White House. It doesn't call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. He wants to make sure that Newsmax and QAnon and conspiracy sites had their day in the sun, and Rachel Maddow doesn't. He is changing the face of America, and he's doing so, well, because he understands that he can be king. Now, I got to face it, there are a bunch of liberals who oppose this. I can't deny it. On April 5th, there are global protests all across the country as people are uniting against Trump and Musk. They have to stop. We have to put a stop to these things. So if you, like I do on this April 1st, support Donald Trump, you do not want to attend this rally on April 5th at the Washington Monument Saturday, this Saturday, April 5th, between 12 and 3:30. You don't want to be there and say, hands off Trump, because you want Trump hands on. You want Trump hands on your children. You want Trump hands on your private parts. You want Trump hands on your money. You want Trump hands on your Social Security. You want Trump hands on your economy. You do not want to attend this rally on April 5th. Absolutely not. At the end of the day, you know what this is all about? It's all about the Constitution of the United States. It's all about this Constitution. The Constitution of the United States is prohibiting Donald Trump from doing what he wants to do. It's this Constitution that says things like, oh, there's an emoluments clause, and you can't have presence from foreign countries. It's this Constitution that says you can't run for a third term. This Constitution says that you should have free speech. This Constitution that says you should be able, that Congress has control over the purse, and Donald Trump doesn't. This Constitution says the president can't be bribed. All these things are in the Constitution of the United States. Donald Trump understands that he's above the Constitution. The Constitution has no meaning to him. The Constitution should not hold him down. The Constitution should not hold anyone from MAGA down. And that's why I ask everyone who's a true blue patriot American who supports Donald Trump, everyone who believes that Donald Trump is the best and greatest president America's ever had, to take your pocket Constitution and do to this Constitution exactly what Donald Trump would do to it. We need to make sure that Donald Trump burns the Constitution of the United States. In burning the Constitution, we can once and for all get rid of anything that keeps us from having him in power. I'm Mark Levine, signing off.